You have
Well,
high expectations if you never get.
unless you listen fast, in which case you might do it.
I listen.
I sent an email.
I have no
The
comments.
mayor has sent a text, but he's having technical difficulties, so we're not sure. If,
Forget about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll have to go without this, a pure guess on my part, but I suspect his device battery may have gone.
so we are live again.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So we've just come out of our closed meeting to deal with the two matters that were listed on the agenda, and only those two matters. And in both cases, after receiving the information, we did provide direction to staff. So with that, we'll move on to the adoption of our regular council minutes. The motion is that the regular meeting of council minutes dated September 15th, 2025 be adopted. A mover and seconder for those, please. Moved by Councilor Renault, seconded by Councilor Brayton. Any comments, questions, or concerns regarding that set of minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. On to staff reports. 6.1. This is a review of council's exemption of lottery fees for the fire associations. The motion is the council receives staff report number A-25-59, and the council directs staff to prepare a bylaw to rescind bylaw 07-27. I need a mover and seconder to get that on the floor. Moved by Councilor Downey, and a seconded by Councilor Edie. Does staff have anything that they wish to add before we begin our discussion?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just. Staff just want to take the opportunity to ensure council that it was not intended for this report to be malicious towards the association or discredit what they represent and provide to the community. As detailed in the report, municipalities are authorized by the province to issue lottery licensing to organizations that qualify under the province's criteria as being charitable organizations. This authority comes with the expectation that municipalities issue licenses, ensuring that applicants first are eligible for the lottery license, and that municipalities will be fair and equitable when issuing licensing, and ensure that we remain satisfied that the licenses continue to meet the eligibility requirements, in addition to the terms and conditions of the licenses. And therefore, staff approach each application in the same manner. We keep detailed records on each charitable organization and require annual updates. Staff basically asks the same of all organizations. Once staff became aware that this fee exemption given by bylaw 0727 existed, combined with the province requirement to treat all applicants equal, and council's mission as stated in your strategic plan to provide excellent services fostering an inclusive, responsible government, staff investigated what prompted the exception request in the first place and prepared the report that's in front of you this evening. The report does recommend that council does not continue the exemption, as staff feel that it could be viewed as not fostering fairness or equality among all charitable organizations that apply for a lottery license. Staff do, however, respect that this is council's decision to make. Staff would also like to acknowledge that within the report, there's information also included about specific sections of the lottery licensing policy manual, specifically the bullet points provided to you on page 2 of the report. This information was the information was provided as there has been pushback from organizations while processing applications and following the requirements that have been set out by the province. These points do not reflect the interpretation of staff when reviewing the manual, but are a direct result of various conversations with representatives from the AGCO when seeking clarification and understanding of the manual itself and direction that was provided in training when dealing with the issues that have been arising. Lastly, staff would like to also point out that not only is it not their interpretation reflected in this report, but that the rules and the criteria are not theirs, but that of the provinces.
Okay, thank you for that. And also before we begin the council discussion, a senior member of the I shouldn't say senior, long serving member of the fire department did reach out to me over the weekend with concerns around the report. And I did suggest that perhaps they were reading it a little bit incorrectly. I highly doubted that the integrity or intent or worth of the associations, was ever being called into question. They certainly accepted that after the fact. Once I explained how I read this, that this was essentially akin to a routine review, and that it really it broke into two streams. There's the issue of the fees, and is it fair to exempt fees for one type of organization and not another? And then there's the other issue of should they even qualify for the licenses? I won't get into my contributions to the discussion until everybody else has had a chance to weigh in. But I did spend some time responding to the firefighter, and everything landed pretty well in the end as far as that's concerned. So with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Councillor Downey.
So under in staff's opinion, do they qualify as a charitable organization that can issue tax receipts? Because is it based on tax receipts or?
No.
Or how's that?
So this is the manual that's been referred to, and it gets updated quite often. So the province has put 4 categories or 4 classifications. And they have to show through their bylaws and their mandates that they fall within one of those 4 categories to be deemed charitable through the province for a charitable lottery license. And just very quickly, I know it's been a long night. There's relief of poverty, the advancement of education, the advancement of religion, and the other charitable purposes beneficial to the community, not falling under A, B, or C. So the files are now up to date for both associations. Their bylaws, membership roster, the banking information, all of that is up to date. So staff are comfortable that they do qualify. There was some misinformation with how things have been handled. Confusion between fundraising versus lottery proceeds, having a separate bank account, that sort of thing. Putting on an application, as an example, to be donated to buy extra equipment. Staff have learned through dealing with a separate organization that it is our duty to ask for a clear, specific list or a description of what the proceeds will be used for, because under the provincial legislation, if you as a charitable organization get a license through a municipality to raise $5,000 for A, you can only spend that money on A. You can't put it in a pool and then determine afterwards what it's going to be spent for. So the other aspect, and the only aspect that's different from other charitable organizations in comparing the fire association, it's very important that they remain not part of the municipality. Because under legislation, municipalities cannot issue a lottery licensing to themselves. And when they put down what they're raising money for, as long as it's clearly defined and they can show to staff that it either fulfills or supports their charitable mandate, we can check the boxes and issue licenses.
So I just, I would hate to see the association get, a consensus going that it's not worth the hassle, because the great work they do is, something that we don't want to step on. But I can also see, so every time they hold a fundraiser, they have to know exactly what they're gonna buy.
So every time they apply for a lottery license, because there are fundraisers like a silent auction, for instance, they don't need a license to do that. It doesn't follow under the parameters of what qualifies as a lottery. So strictly for lottery licensing, they need to yes, no. What that they're applying, they're raising money for. I'm gonna say pumper, and that's a bad example because a pumper is something the government is supposed to provide. But it has to be something specific. I don't wanna seem like I'm picking on them, but I mean, some of the backlash has been, well, we've always just put it into the account. And then the association votes on whether or not they're giving it to this or this or this. And they've also been putting it previously in not proper account. So now both associations are up to what the requirements are. I can't speak to why it was previously done, nor am I familiar with what the manual was before I took this task over. And just now moving forward, it's this. And unfortunately, it's not just the fire associations that find that it's a loophole, but it's not our rules. It's the province that's dictating it.
And I suspected when I read the report that if there were some gaps, that I wasn't so concerned about the administrative side because I had confidence that, well, if we don't have on file a copy of their constitution that helps us support that, yes, they do qualify, well, we can fix that. We can get a copy of that. So I had a fair amount of faith that stream would resolve itself. So I'm glad to hear that kind of is the case. All right, any other discussion, Councillor Renaud?
Okay, so they can do their fish fry or whatever dinner or whatever, and they can do silent auction. So what are they doing? I take it that's up 50-50 or something that they have?
50/50s, raffles, the break open tickets they were doing at one point at one of the local convenience stores. That's all lottery. When somebody is paying for a chance to win, that's considered a lottery. Where silent auction is you have the prize and you can see the increments and you can just outbid somebody. So it doesn't fall under.
Do they do many of the 50/50s or lotteries or whatever? Do they do very many things?
Yeah.
Yes. And bingo's another thing that falls under law. There is an organization that runs bingos within the township, and every year they get a lottery license.
So I can see where it might require a slight change of mindset, but I don't think it's anywhere close to insurmountable. That rather than determine at the end of the year, here's what we're going to buy with the money. It's here are the things that we'd like to buy, and whether we get enough money or not, well, that's a different story. So it's just a slight change of mindset, but I don't think it necessarily has to cause an issue. Did I see a hand from the staff too? Okay, I thought I had. All right, any other discussion? Okay, so the recommendation in the report is to repeal the bylaw which waives the fee for the fire associations. Any discussion around whether that's the direction that we want to take? I will point out there are two options. One is to repeal the bylaw and treat everybody the same, so we charge everybody the fee. The other thing, note in the report, it's about $1,100 so far in 2025. About $1,000 collected in fees in 2024. So I agree 100% with the goal of equity, but there are two solutions to that: either charge everybody or not charge anyone. So that's, I think, the discussion that council should have around this. Any thoughts, Councillor Renaud?
But didn't she say if they show what they're spending it on, they don't need a license?
No. As long as they show what they're going to, what the proceeds are going to, they're complying with the rules around the lottery licenses.
Oh, okay.
Right, so unless they do that, we won't be able to issue a license to them.
Okay.
All right, so that's all about, are they compliant? Yes, and here's the steps that they have to take in order to maintain compliance. That's pretty much resolved, done and dusted.
Who else gets a license in the township?
Do you have any other examples?
Well, last year there was 5, and this year so far there's 5. Habitat Humanity is one that's in the township that get licenses. CPHC is not in our municipality, however, they run their lottery in our municipality, and that's the other provincial like if you, as a resident, went into the city of Brockville had an event that was charitable and did a 50-50, you have to go to municipality where the lottery is, so we have that one, we've had one, the nursing home, a couple, not this year, but previous. St. Vincent's is another one. The youth group, the RNJ, one that,
Oh,
the one that did the thing, they in the past, not this year, but last year, they did some fundraising. Well, sorry, lottery, I think it was like a raffle.
So
Right.
really, it's $1,100 we'd be paying, we'd have, because we still have to buy the licenses, right? Somebody does, or we just.
I
have to
think
pay?
this is up to 3% for administration of the lottery license. Am I right in that?
Yes, the manual states that a municipality can't set their fees to be higher than what's in there as a threshold. There are a few that have a specific rate, but when I started in this, going over previous ones, it seemed to be the 3%, so I just stuck with that.
Right.
There was no decision on record that I could find from council that set your fees at 3%. I know in talking to other clerk departments, there is a municipality that charges a minimal flat rate of like, I think $20 or $25 to all organizations that apply.
Right.
So it really is what council decides to want to do.
Okay, Councillor Downey?
I don't see anything wrong with charging a flat rate, kind of a token fee. Rather than 3%, because it looks like, it can add up to quite a bit of whatever they're. Does the 3% come in prior or after they do their sales? Like, do they figure out how much they've made and then they pay the 3%?
So I'll use a 50-50 as an example. If they're gonna sell 1,000 tickets, because you can only print off and sell whatever you apply for. So I would take the $1,000 tickets, multiply it from what they're selling it for. 50% of that would be the proceeds, and it would be 3% of that. So there have been licenses that have been several $100s. I think the most I've seen is 400. But it's the higher the proceeds that the more they raise, the more the fee is.
But you can't tell how much they raise until after the lottery.
But they have the ability, if they're getting a license for 1,000 tickets, it's 1,000 tickets times, say $10, or, I mean, that's a weird amount, but 100 tickets by $10 would be $1,000, which would be $500 proceeds, so it would be 3% of the 500.
I would suggest a saw, like we follow the advice of staff, but at the same time, give them some sort of a flat rate. Because we really don't know what the end product of the lottery is.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, okay, Councillor
We
Renaud.
don't have to give government anything. If we say we're not charging them, or if we say it's $20 a person that wants a thing, we have to give the government something?
None of the fees, your worship, through you to council, no, none of the fees collected for lottery licenses are given to the province. It stays here. It's kind of a pay for service, like building permits, it just goes into the
Yeah, so.
pay for staff time, I guess, would be
Exactly.
the way to.
So for what it's worth, I don't mind the idea of a flat fee. I would like to see it be a really just a token amount, like $10 or something like that. The reason being, we're only talking about very small amounts of money. It's a rounding error in terms of our overall budget. But that $1,100 this year so far, or the $1,000 last year, is money that didn't actually go to the charities and out to the community for the intended purpose. So I guess it feels a little bit different to me to allow staff time to be spent almost gratis under those circumstances. I don't like the idea of just repealing the bylaw and then leaving everything else the way it is. I'd like to see everybody treated fairly and see more of these dollars end up in the community doing the charitable things that the groups are intending to do. So I don't know how council feels about that, but I would be perfectly happy just saying that you know, a lottery license is $10 flat fee and, you know, license server to administer.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's our contribution.
Okay. So if that is the will of council, then right now the motion on the floor is to rescind bylaw 0727. That's fine. But we need an amendment to add and the license fees for all lottery licenses will be a flat fee of $10. So if somebody wants to move and second that, Councillor Edie and
Just got
Council,
one
sorry.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is $10 gonna pay for the staff time?
Not like.
No,
That's what I'm saying, like, what's it gonna cost for staff to process this? My business is coming out.
go ahead,
Through
Matt.
you, worship to Councillor Edie. From the little experience I've had doing this since late 23, I think that is very hard to pin down. Because sometimes people will come in and they have all their ducks in a row and I can go check. But then there's those that I spend a lot of time back and forth chasing just so that I can confirm that they meet the requirements.
Okay,
So
this might even speed things up then, if everybody just pays the same amount right at the beginning, you don't have to go back afterwards.
and because it's the same organizations that tend to be, I've made it very clear to them this year that every year now you're gonna get the same questionnaire, which is what I learned last year when I did this session for training is a quick and easy way to update our records, right? So whether you're new or not, so they're getting on board on what's expected, so it is speeding up. They're a little slow to get the reports back, but you know, it's a work in progress. It's a work in
I
progress.
just think $10 in this world is very, very minimal now, like I get, I'm just. Don't wanna be losing money on.
I think there is another municipality, don't ask me the name because I can't remember. It's in the same ball, so it's not unheard.
Okay. I was
Okay.
thinking 50 in my head, that's why when you said 10, I just thought it was really.
All right, I'll let our CAO speak and then I'll respond to that. Go ahead.
Thank you, your worship, and I think Councillor Renaud said it's our contribution, and you know, these are funds that are going to be spent within our community. And so I think, you know, it's part of us being a good corporate citizen to make sure that, you know, we're helping these agencies who are doing beneficial things in the community.
Yeah, and my response to Councillor Edie was going to be similar to that. I view this as a multiplier. So if I was looking at 10,000, giving away $10,000 worth of staff time or fees, it might be a little bit different. But at these amounts, when I consider the good that's being done in our community and the 10 to 100 times the amount of money that's being raised and benefiting the community, it seems like a good investment. So I get where you're coming from in terms of covering the staff time. But because of the multiplier effect, I view it as an incredible investment. So are you prepared then to second that? Councillor Renaud was gonna move that, I think.
Yeah, for sure, I just wanted to make sure like it wasn't peanuts out.
Okay,
Sorry, Councillor Renaud.
yeah, Councillor Renaud and then Councillor Edie.
There
So
is a thing on this line. I
Okay.
anticipated.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we have the amendment on the floor, discussion around the amendment, if any. Okay, so I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Okay, that carries. So now we're back to the original motion, which is to repeal the bylaw and replace it with a $10 flat fee for all applicants. So I'll call the question on that one. All those in favor? That carries. Okay, thank you very much for a good discussion. And I'll fill that in after the meeting to save some time here. Okay, moving on to 6.2. This is a staff report regarding the Blaine and Healy Ballpark dugouts. The motion is the council receive report A-25-61, Blaine Healy dugout donation. And the council provide direction to staff regarding the donation to construct dugouts at Blaine Healy Ballpark. And that staff be directed to develop a donation policy to be brought back to council for approval. So if I could get a mover and seconder for that, please. Moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Edie. Anything to add, Mr. CAO?
Thank you, your worship. Obviously, something that's happened very recently. We had a delegation who came forward and we're looking at doing a baseball tournament at Blaine Healy Park and wanted to use the funds that they were raising to construct dugouts. We previously constructed dugouts at Blaine Healy. They wanted to do it on the second field. They have an estimate that they think they were would cost to construct the dugouts. The revenues from the tournament were about just over $4,000. I did ask staff, our facilities manager, how much would cost to construct one of these facilities. He was a little higher. But then I think he's looking at the total costs. They were talking about having a construction company who could help them. Importantly, I guess we want to make sure that we're following our policies and our bylaws. And so we looked at the procurement purchasing bylaw just to make sure that there was enough capacity in there for us to permit somebody else to construct with donated funds on our land. It is something that I think we need to be cautious of in the future. If there's somebody who wants to build big structures, we've got to understand that, you know, we have a responsibility to go through a public procurement process. Although our purchasing bylaw does under Schedule A permit us to exempt where financing is primarily from donations. So this would sort of fit within that. So staff have given sort of three options. One, we ask them to turn funds over to us. We follow our procurement process. We ask them to turn the funds over to us, and we'll work with their particular contractor that they were going to use and do a single tender purchase. Or simply we allow them to proceed with constructing the dugouts on our fields. And those are the three options that staff are looking for direction on. We did note that there wasn't a sort of donations policy, and many municipalities will have a policy around how and when the municipality receives donations, what they'll do with it, how we issue tax receipts, etc. So staff are also recommending that we can policy for donations as well.
Okay, so I'll open the floor for discussion. Councilor Renaud.
So what is the downside to option 3? I mean, we would still have to inspect or check or whatever, that they've done it properly.
Yes, they still need to get a building permit. It's more a matter of, are we showing that we're following our policies, that we're doing public procurement processes, that when we're building things that are within the municipalities, on the municipality's land, that we are doing it in an open and fair manner that's competitive. With that said, Schedule A does give you a little bit of latitude.
Okay, anything else? Councilor Downey.
The dugouts provide safety to the players, because I've been up there before. And
yeah.
The way those fences are lined up, and some of them balls are really flying. And again, just like the previous conversation, I would rather promote people's willingness to go out and try and raise money. Or it's not like we're asking them to build the new public works garage, but like if they would, I mean, that would be great.
Yeah, right.
This is just a recreation thing. It's for safety, keep the sun off them. And I would choose option 3 myself.
Yeah. Anybody else? There are times when government should get out of the way. I think this is one of those times. I really like option 3, and I would hope that this is the beginning of a bit of a groundswell. Everything goes in cycles, and a few decades ago it was very common for amenities to be built with a Wolfsby weekend and that type of thing. That seems to have suffered through a liability chill, and we seem to be sort of getting that ironed out. And I would hate to see that momentum go away. So I think option 3 would go a long way towards making the people who approached us very happy, and I don't see a downside to it. So, all right, council comfortable giving direction to staff for option 3? See nodding of heads. Okay, fair enough then. So I'll go ahead and call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Moving on to 6.3. This is a report regarding financing of the John Deere backhoe. The motion is the council receive this report F-25-17, financing of John Deere backhoe, and the council approves staff to proceed with fixed rate term financing of $219,000 through CIBC to facilitate the purchase. So I need a mover and seconder to get that on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Brayton, seconded by Councilor Renaud. Thank you. And to our recently minted Director of Finance. Do you have anything you wish to add?
Thank you, your worship, through you, for you, and for the rest of council. One point I wish to add is the financing rates that are included in the report, especially the one being recommended for CIBC is 4.299. I think it's prudent to point out that on the deposit side, we do receive 3.2%, which is prime less 1.5 on the average balance in our current account. So the average amount of money that is sitting in the general bank account, we receive 3.2% each month in interest revenue on that amount. So if you offset the two, what the recommended rate is for the lending, taking off what you receive on the deposit side, the actual borrowing rate is 1.099% on what is being recommended.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll open up the floor for discussion, if any. Okay, not seeing any, so,
Well,
sorry, Councillor Downey, go ahead.
Back when we were discussing this, so was the option to borrow the 350 before we decided to go with the Gananoque wheel loader and the backhoe? Were we always planning to borrow the 350 to buy the wheel loader outright?
It depends on what you constitute borrowing. We had talked about a lease, and there would have been buyback at the end of the lease. So there was some financing involved. So I would say yes, we were planning on taking on some debt through a financing instrument.
Okay, so will this reflect on the year, like, for example, like the plow truck that we've just authorized to purchase? Is this also gonna be a negative on the year?
Right, so will this affect the audit and make it look like we're in a deficit type of thing?
And through yourself, through your worship to Councillor Downey, no, it would not reflect as a negative on the year currently with the audit, because it is proportioned out the way it was approved, that the 250 is portioned out $50,000 a year, and with that purchase, the $50,000 for this year is actually being used as a down payment, which is reducing the amount that is being financed. But with respect to the audit, I did have a conversation with the audit team, and it would not reflect as a negative or a deficit on this year.
What about next year?
Pardon me?
What about next year?
It would not on next year because it's a timing mismatch that would catch up to subsequent years 2 through 5.
Okay, any other questions? All right, not seeing any, so I'll call that one. All those in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 6.4. This is a report regarding the start of the budget process, essentially, specifically the municipal price index. The motion is that council receive this report F-25-18 budget 2026 municipal price index, and the council provide feedback on the draft mayor's direction for the 2026 budget, attachment 2, for the mayor's consideration. So we need a mover and seconder to get that on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Eady, seconded by Councillor Downey. Mr. Director, do you have anything to add for this?
Thank you, your worship, through yourself, for yourself and for council, just to highlight a couple of things that are very critical in this report. This report is what has gone through, as I'm sure the council has currently experienced on an annual basis, and the critical starting point is the development of the municipal price index. In doing that, this is an interesting year, an economic indicator, simply because of tariffs, because of manufacturing situations, etc. And typically we use 1 month, November's indicator of the CPI, but because of the inconsistency, it's very short-sighted to use that one static month. So the CPI we have applied is 2.2%, and that's our rolling average of the individual months for each of the 8 months thus far in 2025. In the report, I've indicated that the projection next year for the CPI is 2.7 to 3%. However, I would take that with a large grain of salt because the projections are all over the map and very inconsistent. So that's why we are very confident in using the raw data of the rolling averages presented in the report. I should also mention as well and point out is what is being recommended as far as a percentage as a starting point for staff to be working on includes the asset management component, which is 1.5, but under separate cover, the 2025 asset management plan will be coming forward, and our intention is on October 14th for review and for presentation to council. And within that presentation, looking at the life cycle and the remaining life of all the capital within the township, the recommendation is to increase that component from 1.5 to 2%. Therefore, in the report, the 4.7% as indicated includes that potential increase of 1.5 to 2%, as you will see being recommended with the asset management plan on October the 14th. With respect to the mayor's directive, I will defer to his worship to speak on that if he wishes.
Sure. So I think it's fairly self-explanatory, just a few brief things. This is my first foray into this, not my choice. This is something that the province has thrust upon the office of mayors in a number of municipalities. So I took it on board and did the best that I could with it. The target of a budget that comes in at no more than 5%, ideally, dovetails nicely with your projected 4.7%. The 5% was not arbitrary. It took some of your information into account. And also, if I go back to the beginning of time of Elizabethtown-Kitley, so in 2001, interestingly enough, the average annual increase in the levy, although it took a really wild ride over the 25 years, the average annual increase has been 5.26%. And if I just take the more recent years, it's been 5.03. So, you know, it just seems to basically be business as usual. It also seems to be responsive to ability to pay. I don't think it's unreasonable given the 2% component for the asset management. That basically means the operating budget is going to come to 3%. So again, it seems pretty reasonable all the way around. And there are a couple of directives to force some add-on conversations. If council likes them, we'll add them into the budget. If it doesn't like them, then we won't amend the budget in that regard. But at least we'll have some information in front of us to decide, you know, do we need an extra body or two in public works and things like that. I will just give you a heads up. I'm going to relax some of the language. So for instance, in the directive around public works, I specifically referred to operators. I realize that may be a bit too constraining. So I'm going to refer to 1 or 2 additional personnel. So it provides a little bit of additional flexibility for staff developing the business case. And the similar instance around the equipment life cycle, rather than just assuming the way to get maintenance under control is by not stretching all equipment out quite as far as we are. There may be other ways to mitigate that. So I'm going to open up a bit more flexibility in that one before the final version of the letter. But other than that, I think everything stands the way it is. And certainly I'll take your feedback into consideration if I need to make any more edits. And so with that, I'll open the floor around the report and my directive. So Councillor Downey saw first, and then Councillor Nutt. Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
So right now we have advertising for lead hand and an operator. Is that correct?
There's CAO.
And through your worship, one advertisement for an operator and the other for the supervisor of public works.
Right. So we are we just, by advertising for an operator, are we bringing ourselves up to staff levels that we used to have, or are we already gaining an extra body?
Through your worship, so if the supervisor of public works comes from an internal candidate, we will be just maintaining our current staffing levels. If it's an external candidate, we will be increasing the public works staff numbers by 1.
Okay. So one of the things that I've heard the last few years is that we really need a mechanic.
Mhm.
How come we haven't got a mechanic? Because we used to have a mechanic and then all of a sudden our staff we brought the staff up to the same size, I think. But he's not, whoever it is not a mechanic.
Right.
So I'm wondering why we don't specifically look for somebody that can be a mechanic.
So this will be interesting. That question predates the two gentlemen that are sitting at the table, but I'll let you go ahead and take a stab at it anyway.
And through yourself, your worship, to Councillor Downey, myself and the manager of Public Works, we have actually had discussions as of recent on this particular issue, and we are currently doing a cost benefit analysis to see what the savings are to bring in a mechanic, because we have had a couple situations as of late where something has had to go to an external vendor, which we are of the opinion initially that there would be savings if there was an internal mechanic who could have dealt with that, as opposed to the issue being being sent to an external vendor.
Well, because the reason I asked that is I'm kind of wondering where you're coming from when you say staffing up. I don't understand that. It's a little bit not clear to me.
Okay, the CAO wanted in, and then I'll go ahead and answer your question.
Thank you, your worship. I just guess one other thing to add is that if you have a mechanic, you need space for them to operate and to be able to do their work. Currently, our current facilities are probably going to struggle with some of that. So when we're looking at a new public works depot, it would probably be prudent for us to be looking at ensuring there's space for a mechanic to operate.
Where did the mechanic used to operate?
Predates me, don't know.
Yeah, you used to operate out of the garage, but there have been some equipment changes since then. So at the time that we moved away from having our own mechanic, quite honestly, I can't remember whether that was one of the retirements or just moved on to another opportunity, but when, yeah, that's what I thought. So at the time, it was an extremely competitive market to try and get a new mechanic, and the council of the day was not prepared to pony up the competitive wages that it would have taken to attract somebody in that hard market. And the alternative was presented to us that, well, now would be the time to see if we need an on-staff mechanic or if there are cost savings by using an outsourced service. So we have some of that experience under our belt now, and I guess we'll wait to see what the analysis is around that. In terms of what I'm getting at it in terms of staffing up, primarily my motivation comes from having identified that of all 10 municipalities in the region, we are the absolute most challenged in terms of the number of public works staff per kilometer of roads per house. And the nearest municipality to us has 50% more people per kilometer of road house ratio than we do. Councillor Brayton is often asked, I think almost on an annual basis, to our public works directors, managers, and so on, do you have enough people? And it always seems that staff have been reluctant to come back and ask for more people, but we have a systemic problem in that we have the greatest number of kilometers of roads to deal with and the fewest number of people to deal with it. And I think that there may be cost savings in the long run to be had by building our internal capacity, that we can be doing some more of our own projects rather than contracting them out all the time. I don't know that for sure, but I have that feeling. So one of the reasons that I'm going to edit those two bullet points that I specifically highlighted to give some more flexibility around the personnel that doesn't necessarily need to be an operator, could be a mechanic, for instance, and that has the tie-in to the equipment life cycle that getting the maintenance ambiguity under control may be solved by a mechanic. So those two things may be interrelated. So I'm going to give staff the flexibility to come up with that business plan to put in front of us. What is the best way forward? But I don't think status quo is the best that we can do. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but so now because of the strong mayor powers, does that kind of eliminate what we have to say? And basically you're going to say, all right, 5%, bring it home, staff, and end of story.
Well, I don't know how it's going to roll out in other municipalities, but I don't think even in other municipalities, that's exactly the way it works. I can tell you that's not the way it's going to work here. So I issue my directive. You've seen it. And as I say, those couple of tweaks, but there won't be any surprises. And then staff will come back and basically execute that directive. Then council is going to have their discussion. You'll have an opportunity to amend the budget that's presented. And then if for some reason I don't like an amendment that you make, and you may amend it beyond the things that you see. So I've indicated I want some options to discuss. You may come to the table with yet a different amendment that nobody's thought about. If in all of that discussion, there's something you vote on that I don't like, sure, I have the power to actually veto that amendment. Then you have the power to overturn my veto. So at the end of the day, council still has a role to play in the whole process. And I will make the commitment here today. I don't care how crazy you get. Our public meetings are live streamed. Everybody can see what goes on. I'm not going to veto anything that council votes around the budget. I'll make that commitment today.
You're welcome.
I am not going to veto anything that council votes on around the budget. I'm obligated to start the process. I'm fulfilling my lawful duty. I don't intend to interfere. I don't know how much plainer I can make it.
Fair enough.
Any other questions around the report or the letter?
Same old, same old.
Yep, pretty much.
Okay, I have another question.
All right.
Did you have your hand up? Did you just put your hand
Go
up?
ahead.
No, I'm fine, go ahead.
I was sweeping over. Go ahead, Councilor.
Well, I was one of the ones that, when we had a mechanic here, he was more than a mechanic, he was, all around handyman.
Mhm.
He could build anything out of steel. And he operated equipment and he ran the garage. And I was one of the ones that, and at the time that he retired, we tried to look for mechanics and they were just like hen's teeth. They were not available.
Yeah.
But we thought that, well, nobody could do what Jamie did. I was one of the ones that I kind of pushed for to outsource our garage. And we did find some mechanics businesses that did us pretty good. But with the equipment we have, we need a mechanic, our own mechanic. And I would like to, I know we're not gonna get what we had, but there's gotta be somebody out there that can do the job that we have for them, so. Take it as you want. I would like to see a mechanic back in the garage here and doing what they can do.
All right. Yep, Councilor Rowe, then I get back to Councilor Gann.
Two things. The mechanic may be a good thing, may not be, but it's the equipment that we would need for the mechanic to do the job. Like the hoist and the blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So that's gotta be brought into the cost benefit ratio thing. And I'm pretty sure I'm right. You don't just add up all these percentages in a row to come up with how much the percentage, because you're saying 4 and this adds up to a whole lot more than 4.
Yes.
7% and a 2-something% and a whatever and whatever. So you don't add them, you average them?
That you weight them. So for instance, I'll give you a couple of really hypothetical examples. Let's say insurance is gonna go up 10%. But insurance may only be $100,000 of our budget. But, on the capital side of things, aggregates and everything taken into account, if we're spending $2 million and it might only go up 1%. Right, so you have to take the weight of each of those percentages and the value that you spend in each of those buckets. And do some spreadsheet magic to come out with what is the overall effect on the budget with all the weighting taken into account. It's very similar to tax ratios, residential property versus commercial versus industrial, they all play a different role. Weighted assessment, it's like weighted assessment inside the budget.
Okay. I thought that was something like that.
Councilor Downing?
Well, one of the tools we had when working on the budget in February and March is we were able to see what the year end looked like.
Mhm.
So this time, how do you use that when you're buying aggregates, when you're doing any decision based on the previous year and the previous years? That part of it, because if we have to have this done by the end of this year, how do you factor in what's happened this year?
Yep, our director.
So in completing the weighted values, they're based on twofold. We actually go according to what the budget is that was approved by council for 2025. In completing the budget, though, moving forward and coming forward will be a third quarter in October, a third quarter report of performance. And within that report will be the anticipated projected year-end expenditures where they are going to come in.
The other thing I'll mention about shifting the timeline of the budget earlier in the year. Now, the issue is everybody is now going to be targeting earlier in the year, but one of the downsides of letting it slide until deeper into the new year is that people get out ahead of you, get the better pricing from the contractors. So this is going to force all of us to be ahead by a month or two, going out to the marketplace. And I'm anticipating we will get some favor from the contractors as a result of that. That will be mitigated by the fact that a whole bunch of us now are going to be much earlier than we used to be. So it may be a wash, but we certainly can't afford to be behind the 8 ball. Anything else, Councilor Brayton?
Yeah, something that this budget this year we're gonna have to look at too is aggregate. Cause we've been spending so much money, a lot for aggregate. And the price of aggregate goes up every year and the tonnage comes down. And so the roads are not getting as much. So we've gotta maybe put a little more money in the purse to counteract that.
Yep. And those subtleties are actually baked into the letter. It may not be obvious, but if there's a reason why the budget cannot achieve the 5% cap that I've indicated, it's not that we're not going to hear about it. There just needs to be an explanation and what that impact is. So if we hear that from our staff, that, well, we couldn't do the 5%, it has to be 5.8% because that extra 0.8% deals with the aggregate challenge. The letter already covers that kind of flexibility. Go ahead.
Follow up, I would just like to see a little more on the roads,
Mhm.
but I don't want the budget to go over 5%.
Yep.
If that.
Well, so here's an expression I learned a while ago. You can have price, quality, and delivery. Pick any two.
Yeah.
Right, so it's, I don't think you're gonna get both things, 5% and a lot more stone. We'll see, but that's an operational thing, and I'm certainly gonna leave that in.
Yeah, but just something we gotta remember.
Okay, anything else? All right, I'll call the question on this motion then. All those in favor? That carries, thank you. Okay, moving on to committee minutes and reports. We only have one set this evening. So the motion is that council receive the draft Public Library Board draft minutes dated September 17th, 2025. Could I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Councilor Brayton, seconded by Councilor Eady. Any questions, concerns, or discussion regarding that set of minutes? Okay, call the question. All those in favor? That carries, thank you. Oops. Moving on to correspondence, I believe we have 4 items here. Let me get down to, yep. So the motion is that correspondence items 1 through 4 be received and filed, and the council provide direction with respect to correspondence item 1. So a mover and seconder, and then we can discuss those items. Moved by Councilor Renault, seconded by Councilor Eady. Thank you. Regarding the first letter or first item, this is a letter received regarding fire invoice. Yes, and this is where staff are seeking direction regarding this. I don't imagine the staff have anything to add, so we'll just open the floor for discussion. I guess our CEO does, sorry.
So the fire chief would normally be the one to speak to this. So the fire department was called out to sort of civil vehicle accident. The individual was not a resident of the township, and as is the policy, we bill them for the time that the emergency services, our emergency service took to be dispatched. In this instance, they did keep it as low as they could. They really did work to make sure that it was as low as they can possibly get it. However, the individual is still asking for asked to waive any of the charges that we put to them.
Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion, if any. Counselor Downey? Oh, that's, all right, I saw Counselor Downey first, and then I'll get to you. Did you have a clarification, or did you
Yeah.
want to actually do? Okay, so I'll let you ask your clarification.
Okay, $285.
Yeah, $285.25.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Counselor Downey, go ahead.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that he had the accident, but it's definitely, everybody who experiences that is treated the same. So I don't really support, not invoicing it.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. So is that the consensus of the council?
Yep.
Yeah, for the public benefit, it's not that we have a cold heart here, but unfortunately, we learn a hard lesson every now and then that if we stray from policies and create exceptions, there can be ramifications that we don't like and we don't anticipate, and they're not good for the taxpayers. So there's a lot of good reason to just treat everybody the same. So council has, or staff has their direction then regarding that item. 8.2, this is from the United Counties, regarding the formation of a energy task force. I believe is there not an implied request to seek support for this? Oh no, I guess a copy. Okay. So I guess there was no explicit request for us to support this. Certainly the St. Lawrence corridor has support for this task force. The layout of the map for hydro was very interesting. We seem to get lost in the Eastern Ontario discussion, but the St. Lawrence portion of the Hydro One network is its own distinct area and has its own set of challenges. We probably will be okay for our North Augusta Road, I think, given the proximity to the substation in Brockville and the high power lines that come over. But even that may not be a correct assumption. I don't know about anybody else. I've always thought about the electricity flowing from west to east, but in this particular case, a lot of the electricity flows from well east of here, the Moses Saunders Dam, and it actually flows west towards us. So that's also something to consider. So challenges in terms of lack of electricity in the east could ultimately affect us here as well. That's something to be aware of. All right, if there's no further discussion on that item. 8.3, this is a notice regarding bridges to better business and discussion around that one. Okay, don't see any. And then finally, the council resolution regarding speeding in Jasper. I will say that our resolution regarding traffic measures and so on will be going to it is going to be on the county cow agenda for October 8th, I think it is. First full week of, yeah, first full, yeah, October 8th. So we'll get referred to the county staff. I know that they've already done some work in terms of the speed reduction, but we'll see if we can get the interchange or the stop signs changed at the intersection, and maybe some further calming measures as well as the speed signs that people seem to be ignoring. Councilor Renaud?
Is Merrickville asking for a stop sign on their side of the railroad tracks? And didn't we have that discussion that you can't have a stop sign at the railroad track?
Yep. Now, their position, it's not entirely wrong, is that there's been a change of staff at the county. And there are some different approaches for interpreting some of the regulations. I think in this particular case, they're going to find they're sort of spinning in the wind, because the rail company is going to be all over that because of the proximity to the rail track. The reason I think the three-way stop may succeed is that on the hotel side of the intersection, it may be outside the influence area of the crossing. So we'll see, but wouldn't hurt if they can figure out a four-way stop solution, so much the better. If not, then our motion on a three-way stop is sort of a backup.
I mean, Merrickville might be looking at, well, Kilmarnock what, 100 yards down the road.
Yeah.
Has that, and that is very annoying.
Yep.
Cause the stop sign is over there. Before you get to the railroad tracks, well, then you have to stop the road,
Yep.
and then you gotta be on the highway.
And that's only a T. There is some
Yeah.
concern around, will they be confused about what to do if somebody has their left-hand flasher on, but they're all the way over there and you don't see it and they come through the intersection, so there's a lot to consider there. It's an interesting intersection, but certainly we'd like them to do something, 3 at a minimum. If they can do a 4-way stop, so much the better. I was speaking with Mayor Cameron and he said, listen, if we can get 3, anything that we can do to help is good, so. There's a lot of cross support for each other there. We just like to see something done.
So,
Councillor Downey?
will this letter go to the county as well, like, and when our resolution goes there, does that allow you to speak to it and then also the Merrickville mayor?
Yes. Yeah, so we'll be able to provide some input as it gets directed to staff so that they understand, and then a report will come back to the council. Hopefully recommending something. We just don't know exactly what that'll be. Then county council will make that decision.
They put some 40-kilometer
Mhm.
speed limit signs on the east side of the tracks.
Yeah.
And I've heard from a couple who was out for a walk that they either didn't see them, they didn't recognize that it's been changed, but they went through there the same high rate of speed.
Yeah. I've heard the same thing. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our correspondence items, unless there's anything else. Okay, so I'll call a question on processing those. All those in favor? That carries, thank you. So information items, does any member have an information item to share with us tonight? Okay, seeing none, motions and, sorry, Madam Deputy.
Staff. Just want to remind council, for those that haven't responded, the business of the year breakfast is next Thursday, and staff have to provide numbers.
Yep.
This Thursday, so if you haven't responded and would like to attend, please let staff know.
All right, thank you for that. Motions and notices of motion. Does anybody have a notice of motion tonight? Okay, not seeing any public questions. Did we receive any questions online?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Did I see your hand, Councillor Brayton? No. Okay, confirmatory bylaw. So, oh, no, that's my bad. I was reading that incorrectly. Sorry. All right, so the motion regarding the confirmatory bylaw is the bylaw number 25-50 be now read a first, second, and third time. Finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered accordingly. I need a mover and seconder for that, please. Moved by Councillor Brayton, seconded by Councillor Eady. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. And that brings us to adjournment. Thank you, Councillor Brayton. The regular meeting of council adjourn at 8:54 p.m. to meet again on Monday, October 14th, beginning at 7 p.m. All those in favor? That carries. Thanks, everybody. Yes, it is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.